Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the November session of the Southern Fried DNN user group. We are excited to be here. We are getting close to the end of the year. I find that in business, people are focusing on all kinds of things with their DNN sites right now. I know my companies are doing a lot of DNN upgrades, not only for security updates, but for just modernization purposes. And it feels like every website we see and all the customers we talk with are focusing on their websites and doing work. No one is holding off on that project. They're blazing ahead with projects, and so it just feels like it's a very active time right now for people who are managing and maintaining and using their DNN websites. So hanging out here with everyone both online right now and you watching in recaps and replay of this video later on. It feels like it's in a very active getting work done kind of time right now in the DNN community. So here at Southern Fried, we will follow the normal structure that we do in meetings. We'll begin by talking about community events and different community buzz news and topics. I'll kind of pass the mic around to David and anyone else who wants to bring in with some community information. And then tonight, as our primary guest, we have a very exciting time because we will be having a release party for the much anticipated Shine, DNN Shine, a replacement or an alternative control panel and system for DNN that we've had some sneak peeks at the past year or so. So you can go back and see some of the sneak peeks if you want to see the history of this in previous SoFri meetings. But we have Mike Smeltzer on with us to both present and kind of kick off because we are privileged to be here with him as he releases, and so this is an official release party. I'm excited to be here for this. So to begin with, let's kind of run to community events and different items. The primary item that I'd want to promote and talk with everyone about is DNN Summit 2020. I try to get a little bit excited about this and challenge you to think, where are you going to be in 2020? When you were a kid growing up, 2020 was the future. Buck Rogers was flying around and there were laser bolts and floating skateboards, and we had 2020 in the future, and now we're going to be here in 2020 in just a couple months. And I want to celebrate 2020. For me, that means taking the crew and spending time here at DNN Summit and spending some time in Florida together with crew, family, and friends. So that's what my plan is, and I'd love to get others excited about it and have you join us down at DNN Summit in Orlando. That said, the convention and the information is coming together quite nicely. If you have missed it, the speakers and the sessions have already been announced and posted onto the website, so you can go through and start picking out the sessions you want to pay attention to and that you want to visit. DNN training is open for registration so that you can purchase and sign up for the different training events that you might like to attend. Timeline-wise, we have early bird registration that is ending in just a handful of days. David, that finishes here in December, right?
Yep, so all the way through to the last day of November, so it'll be turned up. I think Joe is online as well, so I think he's going to be the one to kind of flip the switch, and we'll be flipping it off somewhere around midnight.
So that is midnight of the last day of November, or December the 1st you can still squeak through, or it's off December 1st at midnight?
Joe, I don't know if you have audio, but feel free to answer that.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Joe.
Yeah, for my wife's birthday, the prices go up.
Okay.
Prices go up on December 1st.
December 1st, midnight. And if everyone doesn't remember, that's the morning.
Midnight Eastern Standard Time.
So this is your chance to pick up tickets and purchase. And if you would like a tip on how to make your ticket purchasing go farther, consider becoming a sponsor. If you are bringing more than a couple of people to DNN Summit, become a sponsor. Pay for a ticket to be a sponsor, and with the different levels of being a sponsor, you can get one ticket to DNN Summit, and that is a way to both help promote and put on this event with us. You can see here on the sponsors, we already have several people who've signed up that have stepped up to be sponsors, and we got to thank each and every one of them. They are the ones who make this happen. And I think there's even one that I'm aware of, DNN for Less, who has also joined the sponsored group, but they haven't gone up yet on the website. They'll do that soon. But at the moment, the sponsors are the ones who are making this happen for the community. So as much as you can, spread the word. If you know any companies or organizations that you think should be sponsoring, reach out to them. Ask them. It'd be really great if we could have this list grow and make even more out of what we do here at these community events. I think I've kind of covered it at the moment. The last thing I'll mention about Summit is not about Summit, and it's about Disney and things like that. If you are planning to come to the event and then you're going to take your crew or you're going to take your family to Disney or other things in the area, just be aware that some of those things have tickets you should start buying now as well. Obviously, you can get into the park if you're going to go to Universal or if you're going to go to Star Wars Land in Galaxy's Edge at Disney World. But if you're going to do some choice events, like you want to build a custom lightsaber at Galaxy's Edge, those reservations book up now. So you need to pick a day and go ahead and make a reservation. So if you're going to build a droid or build a lightsaber or something like that, you should do that here in November to make sure you'll have a spot or time in February. Otherwise, they have a smaller group that is basically lottery, first come, first serve on the morning of open. David, anything that I missed or did mention about the DNN Summit that we should make sure we mention?
Nope, can't think of anything right now. There is a plethora of information out here now, though, especially in the conference area and the training area. If you want to get details about any of the specific training and so forth, there's some nice information out here now to gather that, as well as in the main conference landing page, being able to funnel you to the speakers and the sessions and the full schedule. The schedule is still a work in progress, and it will be adapted between now and even leading up to the last days. There will be changes made in the schedule, but if you want to know what the latest and greatest schedule is, coming out here and taking a look at that will get you there. And a lot of great sessions this year, a lot of great speakers, very diverse crowd this year. It's probably the most diverse, I would say, that we've ever really seen at a DNN conference, and that's really exciting.
It's a good mix.
Absolutely. So, yeah, and that's about it. Just stay tuned on the site, and we'll try to keep you informed.
Now, I got to tell you, the DNN Summit website is just looking fantastic, and things are really coming together on that. I kind of backed out. I didn't handle the website as much as I did the previous year. Who worked on the website this year and made this website so fantastic, David?
I think it was the DNN Summit web team, so they did a great job on this.
I was trying to have you say me. I did, and I was going to say you've done an awesome job. Thank you, David.
Thank you. Thank you. A lot of good collaboration.
All right. That is true. So then within the community buzz and information, we've got certain things to promote and announce. One thing I'll mention is, and I could put it back over to Ash to kind of chime in on some things there too, because he was saying that corporate is also going to step up and do some more of those things, is we're on a pretty regular schedule now for releases and updates in DNN versions, and beta testing. Testing when we get to release candidates is something that we need the community to do more of. So if you use DNN for several different sites and you have multiple different servers, I think that the thing in my description of what I'm seeing is that vanilla installs, blank, empty installs, updates and upgrades to those are doing perfectly well. But real-world situations where you get into lots of different modules and different custom configurations and setups, once you have the real world, filled content and all kinds of things in your site, that's where we're seeing things get missed because they're not being tested at the release candidate stage. And I'd like to encourage people to think, even if you're not a developer, but you have 7 or 8 different sites, and you could spin up a copy of one and run a release candidate upgrade, that would be something that would make a big impact on the community if you could help report bugs and report issues at that release candidate stage. So I think, too, that's part of what I'm passing it over to David here to talk about as well. So I'll pass to you, David.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to highlight here some exciting things that are happening within the community, and I'll come back to that image there in a minute. But we've done a bit of restructuring of the leadership team of DNN, so now it's more clearly defined as to what areas of focus we have. Initially, these were ecosystem advisory groups that were set up by Andy Treba to kind of help rally us around and, you know, put some definition to the community and so forth. And as we've evolved a bit over the last few years, we're making some slight tweaks to this, but we've got a nice new area out here that explains these different areas. One of the new ones, and this is where my role has shifted quite a bit from focused on partners, because we're past the point of trying to build a partner program. There is a partner program now, and that's maintained by Corp and so forth. So we rethought kind of what my role is going to be, and this is going to be in the area of strategy. And this goes across DNN platform as well as coordination between the various leadership teams of awareness, development, and technology. And that's going to open up some nice conversations. We've never had a great place to really talk strategy, and that's not just in technical strategy or anything like that, but it's also, you know, how we go about doing things. Like, for instance, clearly communicating these different areas of focus in the community and how we're structuring things from a leadership standpoint. We've got an org chart here that's in the making of the 4 different areas and who is head of those areas. So one of the things that you'll notice here, and this is maybe a bit small on the screen here that I'm sharing. I'll try to zoom in here just a bit.
No, it's pretty good, David.
Oh, is it? Okay, great. So one of the areas that has seen some really fun growth is the area of testing. And Mariette Knapp is heading up the testing group now and has gotten involved and really kind of rolled up her sleeves and really started helping testing. And this is specifically with certain issues that come up, or especially when the release candidates are coming out, really putting some strategic effort into that testing. So running certain scenarios that we believe are, you know, problematic, and that's really resulted in some great output recently. So, you know, Ryan was kind of making a plea for people to test, and we need more testers because the more, you know, it really needs to be in that release cycle stage. So for those of you that don't know what a release cycle is, it's really, hey, this is in its form that will be the official release if we don't catch any bugs or things that are just, you know, gone awry. So that's really a great time period to test and kick the tires a bit and make sure everything is working as we would expect it to do. So not only as users of the system, but also as vendors in the ecosystem, we're trying to organize a lot of the, especially the more top vendors right now, to make them, one, aware about the release candidates that are out there, and getting them to test prior to it, because we recently had a few things that happened that there were unintended breaking changes that happened in the official release that weren't caught during the release candidate stage. And we're now having to, you know, go back and address those issues, and it would be much better if we were to catch those on the in the right cycle prior to the official release, because you can imagine the impact that has when something goes out that breaks things and you didn't intend it to happen. And it was fairly significant. It was in the area of the friendly URL API call in DNN, and a lot of vendors use that. So think anything that's like a blog kind of feature or something where they have to actually leverage the friendly URLs in DNN, you know, that was impacted and essentially broke those modules unintendedly. So yeah, just encourage everyone to get involved in the testing, and your testing may look very different than your neighbor's testing. You know, if you're a vendor in ecosystem, you may be looking at it purely from your modules perspective, which is a really great test. We want to make sure your modules are going to work when the new version comes out. If you're an admin and running, you know, multiple portals or whatever for your company, then you're going to be focused on more of what your usage is on that and doing that. If you're, you know, just part of the testing team or something, you may be just going kind of all over the place with all the various functionality. But it's really exciting to see that, because it's really having an impact already with just the few people that are getting involved in that, and really appreciate it. The other thing I was going to briefly mention here is that we have the DNN releases are now listed directly on the DNN community site under the resources section. What this is a lot of people are kind of scared of GitHub, and this gives a nice alternative for them to come out and see all of the release notes for the various versions, and it'll link right over to GitHub from here if you need to do that. But it gives it a little bit more human-friendly view of that, and that just recently got implemented, and that's using an old core module, DNN news feeds. So that's very nice to see some of those.
The RSS feed.
Yep, and it's working really great. So thanks everybody that got that implemented. I think that was it, Ryan, that I wanted to mention there. And I will mention briefly that we've got the 9.4.3 release candidate 1 is staged and almost ready to make public. We're just running a few more internal tests, I guess you would call them, prior to making that release candidate public. And yeah, so that's it.
All right. Well, we will come back around to other items, and if anybody else would like to throw in items that we've missed, put it into the chat, and we will pick it back up again. Joe, Ash, Mark, everybody else, if something you want to add, let us know, and we'll come back around to it. At the moment, I would say that it's my pleasure to introduce Mike Smeltzer again back to our group. He's been here a few different times. He's talked Shine. He's talked other items as well. And we're here for a bit of a celebration. It's been something that we've had on our radar for a couple of years. We've paid attention to it. Personally, I've seen demos of the system as it's changed a few times and have always found something to be completely surprised by, completely enamored of, for the simplicity and beauty of the way one or another item works out. And so I'm very much personally excited about this, because I'm sure it's something that we'll put in practice soon, just so we can start trying it out with people on the streets and in the real. So with that as a brief intro, Mike, take it away. Let's have a little party here.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction there. As you mentioned, this has been a project that's spanned over a few years now, in varying forms, from a prototype to, we thought we were going to be at this point last year, but we pivoted a little bit based on user testing and feedback, and that brings us here to tonight. So let's just get the slides started, and we will go from there. So yeah, is everyone?
David, I'm gonna ask you to mute one of the users, and we'll see which one it is here in just a second.
Sure thing.
Go ahead, Mike. I think we got it.
Okay. So yeah, first and foremost, thanks everyone for coming tonight. Thank you, Southern Fried, for putting this on. You guys have been great supporters to me, both David, Ryan, Clint, over the last couple of years, so really appreciate it. Tonight we're going to talk about Shine. Shine, as Ryan mentioned, it's a control panel that you can install into your existing or brand new DNN websites. It supports version 7.4.1 and up, all the way up to the latest public release of DNN Platform. And it installs into DNN Platform like any other extension would. So whether you're going to purchase a a slider, or if you're getting a custom module or anything like that, a theme, Shine installs the exact same way, and it will basically replace the persona bar or the core control panel, depending upon what version of DNN you're on. So I mentioned I'm Mike Smeltzer. For those of you who don't know me, I'm from the east coast of Canada in Halifax, Nova Scotia. I'm a lifelong developer. It works for a company called Scotia Code Incorporated. It's a company I run that builds premium DNN commercial extensions and also custom solutions on DNN platform. So tonight we're going to talk, we're not going to go through a feature by feature review of Shine. We're going to talk about common website editing scenarios. Common scenarios that regardless of whether you're using DNN platform, WordPress, Wix, Weebly, Joomla, Drupal, Umbrico, Kentico, you can go on and on and on. There are common use cases that different types of users will run into day to day, really, in the process of delivering a website. Those scenarios that we're going to talk about are users in general. So users that edit the website. Myself, I'm a developer, but I'm also a content editor. I'm also an administrator, and I'm also a mixture of all that combined. Some of my consulting clients will be just content editors. They can't access certain parts of the system. But what I'm getting at here is everyone that uses something is a user, right? Whether you're using DNN platform, whether or not I'm using an app on this cell phone or my tablet or this computer, we all have expectations on how things should work. So one of the just basic principles of Shine is from a usability perspective to be built for users, not specific necessarily developer admin, but just general usability and providing a good user experience for everyone. Part of that means, right now I'm on a touchscreen laptop. I'm flicking these slides with my finger touching the screen because it's nice and close to me. It's how I like to work. Sometimes I move my windows half and half. Sometimes I might pick my phone up and use that, like a lot of people. So from an inclusive design perspective, we want to build something here that scales with the user's needs and wants. Whether it's being at a coffee shop and wanting to show someone your website really quickly, or two big monitors at your desk in a power user setup. Shine's a product that can scale across user needs. We're going to talk about compatibility and supportability. I briefly mentioned earlier about some of the versions we support in DNN, but even more than that. I've been on the other side of the transaction, on the other side of the table many times working with enterprise clients. And they have, and small businesses too, and they have needs and wants. They want to know things like, hey, if I'm going to buy this extension or download this extension or build this thing, what does it do in my platform? Does it support core features of DNN? Can I install it, quote unquote, normally? Can I uninstall it? What web browsers does it support? These are questions that people really want to know because you don't want to go through a long process and be like, oh, geez, I didn't realize that this doesn't work on this kind of DNN website. So we're going to touch a bit on that. And we're going to talk about how to add content to pages. Regardless of what CMS you're on, you're going to add something to a page in one way, shape, or form. Whether it's your content editor or whether it's the person delivering the website, depending upon your setup, someone is adding content to a page in some manner. Any website that's delivered to production should have site maintenance happen to it. And when you get into situations of performing site maintenance, especially on someone else's website, you might be the service provider, but it's someone else's website. Someone else can log into it probably, someone else can change it. That opens up the door to some interesting possibilities for collisions to happen when a development team or one developer might be deploying code or doing bulk updates to a website. What if your content editor comes in and starts doing things because they didn't know? Communication issues, process issues. Opens up a lot of doors, especially in websites that have lots of users in it all the time, day to day. I've worked with organizations that have had upwards over 24 content editors. And some of those editors were developers that, cross those domains because sometimes we have to wear multiple hats. So it opens up a lot of challenges. And then we're going to talk about just the basic creation of your information architecture. Every single website in the world has an information architecture, whether it's 1 page or 100,000 pages. There's an information architecture there that's made up of pages, redirects, and navigation. So we're going to touch a little bit about how Shine can help make that a little bit easier to do. So we're just going to get right in and start talking about this stuff. So just from an end user perspective, regardless of whether you're the content editor, the developer, the administrator, the super user, when you log into your platform for the first time, this is what you see in Shine. At the top here, we have our main toolbar. Very similar to a DNN setup, we have a main toolbar horizontal across. This gives us some quick actions to more global functionality across the site. For example, your user menu here where you can log out. Below that, we have what we're calling the page bar. So this would be our equivalent of the persona bar's edit bar, the bar at the bottom of the screen. This gives us quick access to items that are meant for the page that we're currently on, which is what's below down here, the page that I'm currently on. One recent addition to kind of tie off this experience is we've added something that we're calling the content repository. So you have quick access to your site structure, regardless of what page you're on or what screen you're on when you're using Shine. All of your pages and redirects will show up here on the left-hand side of the screen. And you can go through these and see your items in there in real time. Kind of touching, actually, we'll open that back up again here. Touching on the inclusive design, building for different form factors, for different users, for different scenarios. I'm just going to go ahead here and, I'm actually in the wrong web browser. Here we go, this is better. Let's give that a refresh. I've got 2 different web browsers with 2 different user accounts running for something else later, so you couldn't see everything in the last screen there. My apologies. We're going to go ahead and open up our developer tools, and this is going to just give us the ability to demonstrate some of our responsive design. So in a desktop view, as I've just shown you, it's kind of the main areas when you log in. What happens if you go on a tablet? What happens if you go on a mobile device? Well, Shine built the scale. So if we scroll this down to something more like an iPhone, this is the experience that your editor, your content editor, or yourself as a developer, administrator, consultant would experience on a mobile device. That content repository I mentioned, still accessible, just in a more mobile-friendly manner. Off to the side there, you can quickly close it. I'm using my mouse right now, but I'm going to go ahead and just use my finger for a moment. Just nice and fast. You can get to these things very quickly, get into your menus and that type of thing. If you went up to maybe an iPad mini type size, you have a very similar experience where it just tucks away. And then as you get up to larger form factors or changes the orientation of devices, that's when your content repository can be docked to the left-hand side of the screen if you'd like it to be. But of course, I build a lot of websites, and I want to be able to see that website exactly the way it's going to look like in a web browser without my administrative Chrome. So we let you give you the ability to push that to the side so that you can kind of see that full screen effect without having your midden tools in the way. I will touch on just this basically while we're talking, or just briefly while we're talking about this. A little bit different than some of the other solutions out there. Shine is actually it's running as a standalone app, kind of outside of your website, versus being injected into every single page. So when you see your website down here at the bottom, there's no administrative tools injected into it. There's nothing that you need to worry about your menus overlapping. If you remember the DNN 7 and 8 control panel, you'd have a lot of conflicts sometimes with drop-down menu style sheets and things like that. So we're actually operating...
Yeah, overlapping or things, yeah.
Overlapping, exactly. So with this setup, everything just works. Nothing gets in the way. Shine's over here, and your website's over here. They talk to each other, but they don't physically interact.
Hey, Mike, switch your screen, or let's check on a refresh here. Seems like it's frozen for myself and maybe a couple of others. Maybe David's seeing it just fine. Want to see if we're catching up or if we're behind on the video.
Okay. Is that working now?
It's looking great here.
Oh, perfect. Cool. Yeah, I was just talking, rambling on there
deal.
for a second, so that's probably why you didn't see you didn't see much action there.
He was using his hands instead of moving the screen, so I think it made it feel like maybe he was doing something and he wasn't.
That could have been there. Yeah. So part of this, we're talking about compatibility and support. So with Shine, you don't need to modify your existing solutions to work with this. You don't need to write CSS that says, if there is show, I believe it's edit control on the body of the form tag, add a 53 pixel margin to account for your DNN 7 and 8 control panel, pushing it down. Shine runs your website, like I mentioned, kind of in the sandbox. So there's nothing you have to do as a theme designer, a developer, to make this work. Nothing at all. All right. As mentioned earlier at the introduction, DNN 7.4.1 and up is what we support. So if this actually here's a 9.3.2 site, but 9.3.2 still has some admin pages when you set it up. So they integrate nicely with the site structure over here. So these will be the default ones that come with your site. Actually, this will make it a little easier. When you're in the developer tools mode, it kind of removes hovers and things like that from the mouse. There we go. So it integrates nicely with your admin pages. So if you run this on 7 or 8, all of your admin pages show up here. If you run on 9, if you have admin pages, they show up here. And then up here in this panel, or this menu right here, it's not on this experience because it's DNN 9, but if this was DNN 7 or 8, your host pages would show up in here, so you could access them that way. Keeping it kind of, host pages are more of a global function, so getting them out of the page manager and just keep them up at the top level. This being DNN 9, though, we have the persona bar as well. So Shine is, there's one installation, but the way it's been built is it kind of gracefully degrades depending upon where you're running it. So you don't need to grab a different installer for different versions. There's one installer and it just scales across. Thank you. So being DNN 9, we see the open persona bar. So I'm just going to give that a click. And this will essentially open up a temporary session in this tab, so you can still get to a lot of the administrative tasks that are 100% needed when building a website. Shine isn't meant to replace like for like every single admin interaction with your website. So things like your admin logs, managing themes and users and roles, those aren't necessarily, in some cases they could be a daily thing with users, but for a lot of people, you set that stuff up once in a while and you don't go back there, or you might come in, check your admin logs and that kind of thing. So we still give you 100% access to do that, to install extensions and that type of thing. So I'm actually going to do something that's just a little bit different here. So just bear with me while this happens. So one of the big challenges I've had from working with enterprise clients and even doing support work for clients who I've never known before, been approached me for, hey, we have a website here. It's a decade old. It's 12 years old. It's 14 years old. My developer's no longer around. It's DNN. We don't know what to do. We need some help. And you come across these websites, you want to do upgrades and that kind of thing. It opens up a lot of complexities, as we know, for compatibility issues. Can this get upgraded to 9 without removing the 52 extensions that you used that the vendor is no longer around, that they're no longer supporting, or that type of thing? So the way we built Shine is that I want it to have a clean install, meaning your current setup, whatever it is, everyone has a different setup. I've seen some pretty wacky things. I've probably done some pretty wacky things over the time as well. But when you install Shine, it doesn't change a single thing. There's no changes to your web config. So there's a clean installation from that regard. A lot of people, or at least that I work with, might manage the web configs in source control outside of their installations because they do things like continuous delivery and deployment. So if you're installing extensions, into websites and you don't know what they do, then you have to get into a situation where you're comparing web config files and really tracking down the change history. So Shine's a clean install from that regard. There's no core modifications. But also, even more importantly as well, if this solution doesn't work for a specific use case and you can't use it anymore, I want to easily uninstall as well. So I thought what better way to kind of demonstrate that is, this is a production website right now. I'm just going to show you what this kind of installation experience is with this product. So Shine shows up in your extensions. It actually shows up as a provider. So if we come down here, there's Shine there. I'm just going to go ahead and uninstall this. As we know, when you do installations, uninstalls on DNN, it recycles everything, so it's just going to take a minute to load back up. But if I just run this again here, I'm going to run this on the left side of the screen too. If you notice in the location bar, it's actually /edit site. So because Shine runs standalone and doesn't get injected to every page of your site, after you log in, if you want to edit your website, you just go to that path. And this is kind of a dedicated path for Shine. It doesn't create a page in your system. It uses parts of the API to basically kind of create a virtual URL that is only there if Shine's installed. Once the website loads back up there, you'll see the page is no longer there, or the access point is no longer there. And this should just be coming back any moment now. The slow refreshing has nothing to do with the Shine install. It has to do with an Azure site that's not scaled up too well at the moment. But there we go. So it's refreshed. I'm on the home page of my site, and we have your persona bar sitting there. I'm at the other URL, and it's just a 404 now. Shine no longer exists. So what I'm going to do is just go back now and reinstall this. I'm not going to go through every screen here. It's a pretty standard install with license terms that you would read through prior to acquiring this, and then again when you installed it as well. But that just takes a second. So I'm just going to actually refresh this page, and I'll refresh the other one. And when this comes back, you're going to notice that the home page that we're on that has a persona bar injected into it will no longer have any admin tools. So while I'm currently logged into this website, if I'm outside the Shine experience, your website just thinks you're another logged in user. And depending upon what your role has access to, you may see certain content blocks or that type of thing, but you're not going to see any administrative Chrome. I see the chat going off there, guys. Is there any questions I can answer in the interim while that's loading up? Or?
Yeah, there was one, is it open source or commercial?
It's a commercial product.
While you're waiting on that, I'm really impressed with the way that you allowed access to those core features. Before I was pleasantly surprised with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I have the other extensions that I've built. They're persona bar extensions that work well, and they're going to continue to work regardless of whether or not the website uses this solution or something else. But there you go. As you can see, there's no more persona bar. And if I'm back at that URL, Shine's back in. Because I just installed this, Shine actually sets cookies on your computer. So we're trying to be as transparent as possible. So when you log into Shine for the first time, you can actually go through the cookie policy and see what happens here.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if there were setup settings or a wizard to help walk you through it as you first started to get installed with it.
Yeah, so currently from the thing you're thinking about, Ryan, probably not at the moment. I'll touch on that in a few minutes though. From this perspective, it's just saying, hey, you're logged into this application. There's some terms and conditions, and there's also some user settings that you can toggle on or off if you want to start. These are basically just things like improvement analytics. So it's essentially Google Analytics for the application. And the purpose there is you don't have to take that if you don't want to. You can just simply check it off. But if you check that on, then we're using cookies in your web browser, just like a website, to do analytics-based things. They are anonymous analytics, but the rationale there is that we want to know what screens users are using. We want to know where people are spending most of their time, so we can invest back into the product and either enhance certain areas or quite frankly, decommission areas that if there are features that are not used, not popular, and don't provide value, then we're not going to maintain them and support them. I'd rather invest development resources where people really want to see value brought. So that's the rationale there. I'm just going to go ahead and accept this. And now you're in Shine. We'll speak about this after the presentation a little bit, but there is a public roadmap that I will show you after this. And one of those roadmap items is an interactive onboarding experience for new users. Everyone on this call right now probably knows DNN quite well and can see the resemblance with view mode and edit mode and that type of thing, and what use cases, what you'll do there. But a new client who's never used this platform before may not know those types of things. Sure, this is built for simplicity, so hopefully you can pick it up quickly. But we're going to have a new interactive onboarding mode, essentially, rolled out in the near future. Is that kind of what you're going with, Ryan?
Absolutely.
Okay. One of the other differentiating features in Shine is the ability to add content to a page in a kind of a different manner than you do today. So in today's world, regardless of what version of DNN you're on, 7, 8, or 9, with the core control panel or the persona bar, if you're going to add a module to the page, you're going to essentially load up your grid of modules and then select the one you want, and then grab it and drag it around the screen, and the areas that you can place them will highlight, and you'll drop it where you want to drop it. That works well for a lot of cases. Doesn't work well on touch device, and it does cause a lot of conflicts when you have a lot of heavyweight pages they're really long, have a lot of JavaScript, and I've seen cases where you're trying to scroll these modules through and they just get hung up. So we've taken a different approach, and this is one of our features we came up with from the beginning. What Shine will do is add these plus icons, one there and one there. They'll basically add these into every single content pane in your skin, above and below any modules that are in that content pane. So this skin is very, very simple. There's a single content pane. So there's one spot you can add content, but there's a module here, so it's added 2 different plus buttons. And the idea there is that regardless of whether I'm on this full screen view right now, or if I scale down to my mobile screen, I can just simply, no guesswork, I want to add something here, I click it. And it will take me into a add module interface where you can then select your module. Obviously what will show up here depends upon your user account and role. And then it will, after you press select, it'll add it exactly to that spot. So there's no guessing of what you can do and no fussing around with the page. As you can see here, we didn't show this earlier, but this screen went to a full-size view because I'm in mobile. If I open that back up to a desktop view, it's basically creating a modal window that scales with your device form factor, providing you interface from everywhere. I will not going to show every feature in here. It's pretty standard for those who use DNN. One very small but very valuable differentiator is the ability to put a name right in from the start.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. This interface will actually change a little bit. There's a few settings that some people might use quite often that should probably be here when adding modules to the page. So you'll see this evolve over the future as well. But the use case here is very simple. You get to a website, you have a recycle bin full of modules that are named HTML/text. you've never used the website before, or if you have and you were like me and have a lot on the go, you don't remember what is, then you're fussing around for minutes, going to the database, maybe doing a search, trying to find something. Not very enjoyable experience. Or sharing content from a page. If you try to share a module from your home page and you've got 10 HTML modules there with no names, have fun guessing what one you want to share. As I mentioned earlier, with the compatibility, this works with any theme. So you don't have to modify your theme. Shine dynamically will read your theme essentially when the web page is loading up, and then inject these icons into them. So unless you're doing something really obscure, which there's absolutely cases out there that are, then you could run into a conflict. But for the vast majority of users and themes out there, we've tried a few dozen of the themes from the DNN store, both commercial and open source, and it seems to work quite well. So I'm actually going to do two different things here. So in this window right here, I'm logged in with a content editor account, essentially. You can see that they don't have edit access to this page. They can view it, so it still shows up here in their experience, but they don't have administrative role or a super user role. And in this instance, I probably should have done this a few minutes ago, but say I'm going to do a big upgrade on this website. Or I'm just going to install a single module, and I don't want people in there editing content while this is happening. For a variety of reasons, you don't want people to lose their work if you reset the website on them sometimes. So with Shine, we've added this feature which is accessible from up here, and you can disable website editing. So I'm just going to go ahead and give that a press. Content editors and admins can now no longer edit their website if you're using Shine. And when I say content editors and admins, so admins have inherent access in DNN to edit their portal or their website. Cool. So you get instant access to Shine. For other users, if you want them to access Shine, then we have a role-based system that you essentially go into your user management screen and add a role that's configured into your website when Shine's installed that gives them access to Shine. And then also we have the ability to give access to specific sections within Shine as well. But that's who I'm referring to when I talk about a content editor, anyone that you've granted permission to edit their website through Shine. So that's disabled, so let's just go ahead to this other tab here. I'm going to refresh this. Pretend we just logged in for the first time, and now you can't get in and mess with your website. This is the first iteration of this feature, so we're looking at evolving this out as well to have a few more things that are a little more valuable in potentially in your specific scenario. So this message at the bottom down here, right now it's just a canned standard message, but maybe you want to let someone know that, hey, this is going to be closed for 4 hours. Come back, after your long coffee break and lunch break, that kind of thing. Provide a little more personalized experience. So when we disable the website next time, there'll be a little bit more information there like that, and even potentially the ability to choose from certain roles. So maybe you want a specific segment to be locked out, but you want other people to be in and not just blindly lock everyone out. But now we're done with that, so we can just come back in here and enable website editing. One other of these enhancements that you'll see coming in a very, very near release, we found that when locking websites, if you're going off to then do a deployment, for instance, some deployments, they can take hours. Depending upon what you're doing, you might not want people in there for a whole day. And you may forget that this button was pressed. So we're just going to do some other things like some UI improvements to put a little notification up here, a little red dot type of thing to say, hey, there's something down here you might want to turn off before you run away. So that those changes will be coming in the very near future. But as of right now, this is fully working and implemented in this manner. So now you log in or you just come back to your website and hey, there you are. You can get right back to where you were as a content editor. Okay, now we're going to talk about the information architecture, managing pages, redirects, and menus on your website. You know, if I'm building some website, I'm in the page editor. I'm building an IA. I want to be able to be productive. I want to try things. If I'm a content editor that's mocking up certain new sections of the website, I want to see what my website has. I want to see all of my pages at a glance. So you can go ahead, and I'm using my finger right now. That's why you can't see my mouse. And this is actually a really common situation for me. Everyone uses their stuff differently. I take my left hand all the time, and from the left, it basically rests on my monitor, and I flick through stuff with my finger. And then I might use my mouse to do things on the other side. I find, not just in this application, but my day-to-day life, that's how I interact with the computer. So that's why it's set up that way. But you can quickly see here on this website all of the pages, all of the redirects at a glance. I've had so many clients in the past say to me, can you print me off a sitemap? Like, I've got 1,000 web pages on my website. How can I see this stuff? This gives you a really nice, clean, simple, straightforward view to just skim through things. What we're doing here with the icons on the left is we're basically telling you that this is a page. This is a link, or also known as a redirect. Depending upon what system you're using, the nomenclature is a little bit different. But essentially, in DNN, a link is a redirect. In other systems, the same thing. And then these guys here, these are menu headers. So this is actually something that's confused me a long time in DNN, and I never really understood the difference between a disabled page and doing things like taking out the navigation, permissions. If you go through the documentation for DNN platform, they talk about disabled pages. When would you use a disabled page? Well, the documented scenario is when you want to create a page navigation structure where you have maybe a menu that's a category, and you don't want people to go to that top level menu item, just the child pages. So I started looking at this, and really, so you're creating menus. You're creating categories of pages. So when we call things menu headers, those are basically your disabled pages today inside of DNN. So if you created a menu header and then uninstalled Shine, it'd still be there in your page manager. It'd just be showing up as a disabled page. One of the reasons we went with this approach is the nomenclature. Menu header is used across a lot of more popular apps these days. I shouldn't say more popular in their domain, but Wix, Squarespace, Weebly's, these are very popular with certain user types. Menu header it is. Nice and simple, so now you can see, hey, okay, is this for my navigation, or is this because I don't want someone to access it? So you can still turn pages off, use them if you really wanted to, or you could use your page permissions as well. But we're going to go ahead here, and I'm just going to show you a real-world scenario inside of here. If I wanted to, actually, before I'll just back up a sec. If I wanted to create a page, I have quick access from everywhere, or redirect, or menu header, everywhere that I am in the experience. I just come up here, click a button, and we're good to go. But in this case, I want to make an existing page redirect somewhere else. So in DNN today, you would have to choose between, behind the scenes everything's a page, but you have to choose between, if it's an existing page, if it's a new page, if it's something else. What we've done here with Shine is try to really use day-to-day lingo that your marketing is going to use, other people might use. So things like vanity URLs, redirects, 403, is it temporary, is it permanent? What we're going to do in here is basically go into the settings of the home page. Before I click there, as you can see here, we also give very quick access to parts that we're in DNN every day. If we want to delete a page, I don't want to go into this page to delete it. I just want to delete it. Instead of going, into a settings screen or deep down to do something, just really high-level stuff. But I will highlight the module recycle bin. Just this is something that's been highly requested to us. DNN today, you have a recycling experience, absolutely, but it amalgamates everything inside of it. So if you want to get a module that's on this page that I'm currently on, you want to restore it because it's been deleted, You have to essentially kind of go over here, open up the recycle bin, and sort through. Where what we've done is given a contextually aware module recycle bin. So the home page doesn't have anything deleted on it, but this page here, there's 9 modules that have been deleted from this page. So if I want to restore them, I can just click in here and just take a moment to load up, and there we go. No, there we go. Oh, thank you. You can quickly restore or delete from here as well. And it gives you some extra information like the name of the module, the type of the module, and who deleted it, and when it was deleted. So there's no guessing what happened earlier today or that type of thing. So let's go ahead and...
I was going to say, one of my favorite parts, Mike, about how we've watched this be built over time is that much of this is data that's present, and it's been present the whole time. You're presenting it and using it and combining it together in different ways, and those are all ways that have been driven by your experience as an administrator and as a user. So I love that that's a perfect example of doing better with the data that's already in hand. Yeah,
exactly. As I mentioned at the start here, we don't modify anything. Everything that you're seeing in here is part of DNN. And when you uninstall Shine, it's still going to be part of DNN. You can still get to it. It's just a different manner. It's a different application. It's a different experience. As Ryan mentioned, I've spent the last decade, the majority of it, grinding day to day inside of the enterprise world, putting out fires every single day, both from a full-time employee perspective and with different organizations as a consultant. And everyone's got a different situation, but there is a lot of commonalities that organizations have, and it's really simple things. We lock a website down, we can save a significant amount of operational cost. Things like this, getting into a recycle bin, just really simple tasks at the end of the day add up. And you may not see, right away a dollar savings there, but if you can free up employee time for a year, for 6 months, 10 minutes, 5 minutes here every day really adds up. I didn't speak about this feature, but just because we're on the topic, actually, you know what? I'll just show you really quickly because it's kind of cool. So I'm just going to create a new redirect. And I'm just going to call this outside test. And we're going to go down here, and I'm not going to select a page, actually. You'll notice some of those screens, actually, they flicker for a second. So because Shine is actually built with Razor, if you haven't gone to that screens and we just uninstalled the application and reinstalled it, then they're going to dynamically compile. So the next time you load these things up, they're going to be pretty much instantaneous. But the first time after you install something, it's going to be just slow for a minute moment. Well, let's go in here and make a redirect. I'm just going to call it outside test, and we're going to send it somewhere. So one of my favorite examples, which I can't show at the moment, but if you have multiple environments, if you have a production environment, if you have a staging production environment, if you have dev environments, if you have QA environments, if you have a local one on your machine, what I've come across a lot with a lot of my clients is, hey, I'm going to send something for you to review. But because we have a really large website, the refresh to our dev or our testing environment, whatever environment it is, maybe we didn't do things like, hey, update all the portal aliases properly. So instead of deleting all the stuff we don't use, we have a list of maybe 100, even 2 will do this, portal aliases in the table. Sometimes you might not get the desired situation. And what I mean by that is your navigation menu might not be pointing to the environment that you're on. It might be pointing to your dev environment. It might be pointing to another environment. And unless you've built something special into your skin or another solution, if you click that link, and maybe you're even logged in that other environment, you might not know that you just went from your development test back into production or somewhere else. And I've personally seen this happen a significant amount of times where, thousands upon thousands of dollars over the course of years has been lost in operational cost due to resources not being able to find what you've asked them to look for. They keep looking, and I can't find it. Well, it's because it's not there. So what I'm getting at here, Shine kind of looks out for you a little bit. So I just create a redirect. Pretend this is a navigation menu, or it could even be a redirect. If you try to go to something while you're in Shine, it's gonna look at it for a moment, and assuming this didn't freeze up on me while I was talking, it's gonna prompt you and let you know that, hey, you're trying to go somewhere you're not supposed to be. You're trying to leave the Shine experience. You're trying to leave this instance, this application. And I'm not, this is kind of, I like working in the hot seats. I'm just going to refresh this. I'm not sure what's going on there. I'll just try it this way. I will say that my personal website is not running the production version. I'm about 3 port releases ahead, so we could have just found a bug, and if so, that will be fixed really soon. But what would have happened here, and if you watched the last Southern Fried, we would have got a pop-up that would have said, heads up, you're trying to go to a link that doesn't exist here, time to go back the other direction. So we'll make sure we get that fixed up when this release gets flighted. So the other one that I was going to show you here, unfortunately I couldn't show you that one at the moment, but we're going to go in here and we're going to change an existing page. So we have a page now that's been temporarily in production for a while. I want to make this now go somewhere else. So you go into your page settings, and up here in this context menu, I can take this existing page and convert it to a redirect or convert it to a page header or menu header. So I'm just going to convert it to a redirect, and I'm going to select an existing page, and the home page is now going to go to a different page. And what I'm also going to do now is I'm going to make a new page the home page. So instead of going all the way into my site settings to choose what page the home page is, you can select any page in your site structure and just quickly assign it. And you can tell by the icon there, it's changed to the home page, and this one I just made a redirect has changed to a link. I click these menus a lot just so you can kind of see what I'm doing. Once you learn the experience a little bit, we have shortcuts scattered around. So what I do a lot is I just double click these, and it will take you to that page. And because we haven't been there yet in this presentation, after we installed, it's just going to take a moment, standard DNN, take a moment to load the page up here, and we should see what's going on. Or a few moments.
Hey Ryan, there's your opportunity.
Yeah, I was going to say. Let me say just a couple of things. I was posting into Slack in the chat side that unfortunately I need to step out in just a few minutes. I joined everybody here on client location, and I believe I need to. I'm being called back. I believe I need to head back into what I've been doing here for most of the day. I've been excited to join everybody. Mike, I'm going to leave you with two things. Number one, I have been excited about this for quite a long time. After this, I'm looking forward to coming back later tonight and seeing the new published website details, and I'm looking forward to being your first external customer, your first paying customer. So looking forward to that. Thank you very much, of course, for being here. Number two, then I'll kind of quietly step out and pass to you one of the questions that was from the channel earlier. Ash had asked for the name, the inspiration for the name Shine, where you came up with and why you decided. That might be a good segue into it as it loads back up again here for you.
Sure. Well, first off, thanks so much for the kind words there. Really appreciate it, and look forward to talking to you in the future. One of the actual before I get into that question there, one of the cool things about Shine is that took really long, and that happens in DNN sometimes. But what you noticed is there was a loading indicator happening, and it disabled the entire page. So if that was today's world or years ago's world, your content editor yourself, you might be like, okay, what's going on? What happened? Is my website loading? And you'll start clicking stuff, and then it's probably just going to take longer. So we throw up a loading indicator until your action is done. What ends up happening, actually, if anything takes more than, I think, 2.5 seconds, loading indicator automatically spins up there. The motivation for Shine, so a few different things, really. We wanted to have a name that is kind of memorable, that isn't technical. It's just a nice, simple name to have. And then, there is a little bit of a pun intended here as well, to shine something up. We believe DNN is a fantastic platform. It's been around for a long time. It has a lot of features in it that a lot of people don't know about, that are in the community, open source DNN platform. It's got a lot of features that if you wire them up in your custom modules, you can get things like workflow and approvals, versioning, content tagging. It's got a lot of capabilities, a really big API. I think Dave and I were talking earlier on a different topic. I don't know how factual this is, because I've never actually done it, but someone else mentioned this, I think a couple of years ago, and I've kind of stuck with this number. There's something like 10,000 features in DNN platform. That's a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff to go through. So part of our inspiration with Shine was to take the platform, the capabilities, and assemble them in a manner that we believe helps solve the day-to-day issues, the day-to-day challenges for everyone from content editors to admins to developers, and kind of just take what you have today. So because this works on a decades-old version of DNN, we can take what you have today, which you might like, and for whatever your challenge is, whatever your situation is, it's not for me to judge, but you know what? You can put this on there and instantly, just a single install, boom, instantly shines up your website, transforms the complete administrative experience into something that's modern, something that resembles a modern application, something that follows a lot of design practices that you might find in your Outlook app or your Microsoft Office or Azure DevOps. We're following a lot of Microsoft's best practices and design guidelines here. So really that's where the inspiration for the name came. How can we take what we have today and assemble it in a manner that really lets us show off, from a platform perspective, here's the types of things you can do with it. And we really believe this is a premium quality product. It's built with a lot of rigor, a lot of testing. I mentioned this in my last presentation here. Our lead tester, she's not blind, but she has serious vision issues. She's colorblind. She has narrowed vision. She can't see out here. This experience, having her as the lead tester, her name's Laura York, amazing help. So that's kind of where we're at. We can take what you have today and try and help a little bit. And if this works for you, I think that you'll see, and your clients, if that's your line of business, that this really will help make day-to-day life more productive. Some of the things I showed today are just really simple features. There's a lot more, which you can read about on this website once it goes live. There's a lot of value there that, you know what, you might not see next to a different product, a free product, from a dollar perspective, the difference, but using it daily, when you can start to free up time, frankly, time is invaluable, especially if we have many things on the go. And that's a long-winded way of explaining where this came from. Thank you. So this is kind of that concludes the presentation portion. This is the Shine website. It should be. It's not going to be totally live at the moment. Part of it's actually here. I'll just I'll unlock this after we talk through it. Over the course of tonight, the main pages will be live and a few other ones as well. There's so obviously we all worked on projects before, and we know how business logistics can get in the way or not be there at times. So there'll be some tweaks happening tonight as well over the next few days. But this is essentially the Shine homepage for now. I mentioned earlier Scotia Code. So Scotia Code, I'm the lead developer there, lead solution developer, but it's also my organization. And this is what we're going to be using to deliver commercial DNN extensions and also other custom solutions as well. So we're starting with some of our own extensions. Right now it's just Shine, but we do have a roadmap of other extensions that are going to be coming as well. But the main focus, kind of our flagship product to go live with, is definitely this product. I'm not going to go through this.
I was going to say, so I want to because I unfortunately have to run out, and I want to hear some tidbit of info here. So I'll frame the question to ask about how it's going to be licensed as far as how it's installed. When it's installed, it's per DNN instance because it's being used, or is that an assumption? Is it possible to use Shine on one portal and not on another portal, or would you want to do that?
So part of our research, we did a lot of user focus groups, one-on-ones with people, surveys online, and you're not going to find a model that meets every single person's desire or need. I'm not naive. I've been doing this a long time as well, and I've been in some really crappy situations and some really good situations with vendors. So one thing that I really want to do is kind of take, quite frankly, my personal opinion from the other side, from working in the day-to-day organizations, and take a lot of their concerns, at least that I've come across in my experience, and kind of put it into a licensing structure that's really simple. So every version of Shine has the exact same amount of features. Every version of Shine, every license I should say, it's every portal on your website. So when you purchase Shine, you're purchasing it per installation. If you purchase more installations, then the price changes. So we kind of build discounts into the licensing mechanism. So if you only want one single site, that's a certain price, and we'll get that in a moment. If you want to have 100, 500, depending upon your situation, the price per install drops down quite substantially. From a support perspective, every purchase includes 1 year of upgrades. So we're not going to get into a situation where you can buy 3 months of upgrades, 30 days, 6 months, 1 year. Frankly, a lot of people don't even release a new version within a few months of another version in some cases. So, we're doing a year commitment. So when you purchase it, you get essentially, you're buying a perpetual license for the product, so you can use it forever. And that comes with 1 year of upgrades and support. That automatically renews, and that will give you upgrades to another year of priority support and another year of upgrades. If you do not want upgrades, you can just cancel that, and you use the product forever in the current version that you have it. I would hope that you wait to the end of your your cycle to make sure you're getting the most value there. But we want to make it really, really simple. From a support perspective, this is, as mentioned earlier, I'm the lead developer on this. This is a business, but this is also a passion of mine, and I really stand behind things that I work on, whether it's a consulting contract or whether it's a product. So if you buy this and 5 years from now you have a question, you can come back to our company and ask the question. I'm not going to tell you to go away, but part of the subscription model is priority support, of course. So paying customers will get priority over non-paying customers, but I'm not going to shoo you away. I'm not going to go search down to obscure forums and things like that in all cases to find your questions. But you just come to this website, and right here you can instantly come here and talk to us and ask us a question. And if we're not available at that moment, thank you. You can leave your email, and we'll be sure we will get to it. No way, shape, or mind do I want to have a product out in the world that, quite frankly, has my reputation on it, my name, my work, that I'm not going to support. So yeah, to answer your question there a little bit further, here's our licensing and pricing model currently. These are American dollars as well, and then when you start drilling through things, there's terms and conditions, and they're pretty standard if you've ever purchased any type of...
Dang, Mike, I was hoping that was Canadian dollars.
Well, actually, so if you move here, David, I can help you out with Canadian dollars. But I will have to charge you taxes in that case. So, depending on where you live in Canada, your taxes can be quite high. Let's close that now. But as you can see, everything is identical across the board, and we're doing that for a specific reason. If your situation is something like this, $99 to have Shine on a single installation compared to $699, your website costs drop down significantly. We also, with the website here, and you'll just notice that actually, so it still looks like you're in the pricing section. That's because Shine's open right now, and if you weren't in the admin tool, it would be highlighted in the appropriate area. But we've tried to include in here as many types of questions that different types of users at the enterprise, at the small business want to know. And you can go through there. I'm not going to go through all these questions. You can do that on your own leisure. But we're attempting to have as much information as possible. If you have a question that is not here, you just simply come to the website, let us know, and we will answer your question. We also have a publicly disclosed roadmap. So nothing worse for me from the other side of the fence is thinking about buying a product or buying a product and not knowing what's coming, whether it's 30 days from now or 3 months from now, 6 months from now. What am I buying into? So we give you a full outline of all of the current features that are coming to Shine. Outside of these features, absolutely, bug fixes, small tweaks and improvements here or there. It is a product after all and will evolve. And as I mentioned earlier, if there's areas that are not used, then they could be tweaked a little bit and that type of thing. And then we also put right on the main page our change history. So you don't have to go digging for what's in the version, what has changed, what's coming. So yeah, that kind of concludes the information I have tonight. Obviously, and absolutely open to questions if anyone's still around and has any.
That is fantastic, Mike. Really, really good. For anybody that I may have muted manually, I'm going to go ahead and just unmute everybody again. Feel free to mute yourself back again if you're not going to speak. But it's a great time to ask Mike questions and drill in a bit. I know your focus tonight wasn't necessarily on covering all the different features and things like that, but more launching things and really doing that. And you did a great job of that. Thank you so much. Do we have any questions, Peanut Gallery or otherwise? You must have done a really good job. I've got 1,000 questions.
Either a really good job or a really poor job. One or the other.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm just curious. I mean, how much feedback did you really get during the beta period, and how valuable was that to you in kind of refining this for release?
So that's a absolutely fantastic question. Mentioned earlier, we started back in 2016 prototyping. I forget, I should know this off the top of my head, but I had a newborn daughter this year, so it's been a long year. Maybe it was on Anderson Oliveira's podcast, I think is where we first may have talked about this, and then we were on Southern Fried, or I was on Southern Fried, and then went to DNN Connect and presented a version of Shine. I would say from that point on, I really thought that we were close to launching. We were a lot of similarities to this product. It's evolved substantially as well, but that's because of the user feedback. And I got to a point where, okay, I want to launch this thing, but I've just been working on a bunch of different random features and prototyping things that, while could be kind of cool and provide value, we didn't actually build websites with it. So what better way to know if your solution works than build websites with it in production websites where you're not the person using it. So the beta test feedback was phenomenally valuable. It's no words to describe how important that is. You can think an idea is amazing, but until you watch a user actually do it without any input, one of the best ways to do user testing is to observe someone using your product, whether that's a physical device or software, and not talk to them. See how they interact through things. So we spent the last year full-time effort on this, and part of that, a lot of it was watching users, talking to users. My father's website, I'm not going to tell his age, he'd be a little upset at me, but watching my father edit his website on his iPad, because that's what he uses. He doesn't use a computer, he uses an iPad. Little things like that have been a phenomenal value. Absolutely. Yeah.
Have you done
as you can see, Dave, I'm eating my own dog food as well. So all the websites for myself use my products, and what better way to get knowledge and feedback than using something in production?
That's fantastic. I'm glad to hear. I mean, you know, a lot of times we, you know, developers going to have an idea for a bunch of cool shiz, right? You know, and I'm just going to go and develop that stuff and don't even take a second to consider the actual user. It's just what's cool and what can I put in there. So it's really refreshing to hear that you invested in learning from, you know, not only your own testing, but also people using it and using it yourself, because, I mean, unless you put yourselves and have that empathy for the user, you don't really understand. You end up projecting your thoughts on them, and that's not good in the end for a successful product. So.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, not every product is going to match every single person's scenario or appetite. And I'm not naive. I know that. But I also really believe deep down that this product, from what I talked about earlier, really helps to solve that niche need. And I say niche because we're on the DNN platform, which, while there is a lot of usage compared to other ones, it's a niche product. And from the control panel space, there's not a whole lot of offerings out there on DNN. There's Evoke, and before that, you know, DNN Professional and things like that. There's been a variety of open source attempts over the years that I've seen come online, but never really gained traction. There's the core offering itself for DNN platform, the persona bar or control panel, and those all solve specific needs. We feel that this solves kind of that content editor, end user, day-to-day user that really wants to, you know, this is actually, so I built this website over the last couple of weeks, and what you see right now, just doing this saved me so much time when messing around.
I am sure, yeah. I mean, not even having to deal with your inspector and flipping back and forth.
Exactly.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So you know, it depends on who you talk to in the DNN community as to whether or not DNN is actually a CMS or not. You know, but it seems like you've taken the approach, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's almost like you've built a CMS on top of DNN, the framework, but still allowing access to the original, you know, paying respect to the OG.
Yeah, well, quite frankly, this project here could not happen without the platform. And you know, part of this, part of my initiative here, I've been building DNN websites, mentioned, for a decade, but you get into a groove and you do things the same way in a lot of cases, and you always want to learn new things. But when you're doing things for clients day in, day out, you don't necessarily get the opportunity. And building this product really helped me learn more about the DNN platform that isn't documented. And I'm going to do a similar presentation at DNN Summit, but part of what I've committed for that is some of the more obscure areas in the platform. I'm going to contribute back information. So how did I do this URL type of thing? You know, give that information back so other developers out there can, quite frankly, and maybe they know this stuff today, but maybe they don't. Maybe there's new people coming on, and I really want to help drive innovation on this platform. You know, there's some really cool stuff you can do. You mentioned you know, paying respect. We use DNN as a content management system for sure, but we also use DNN as the web application framework as well to build this thing. One of the big, I don't want to say gripe, but confusion points sometimes I have, I consider myself a full stack developer. One of the best things, and I started developing in QBasic in the 80s with a book my father bought me that you type in line by line and you get a video game at the end. I've been building code my whole life. And I forget where I was going with that.
Well, you were getting ready to explain that you're a unicorn. I think that's what you were going to say.
I wouldn't say that personally, but oh yeah. So it's one of the biggest things that I took in my career was I took user experience training, a certification program back in 2011, 2012, and from a developer's perspective, using that day-to-day, you know, this whole application that you see, I've designed everything. It's coded. I do have other resources that help me on various portions, but this is kind of my inspiration here to build something like this. And you can't necessarily, hey, this stack in DNN is meant for theming. this stack in DNN is meant for modules. This is meant for something else and something else. What this has done is taken learnings from all of those areas and combined them together. So, I actually build themes now a little bit differently because I've learned that there's other functionality in DNN that you wouldn't, a typical theme developer wouldn't think about because it's a developer thing. But when you can kind of marry different things together, you can kind of produce some really cool results. So part of that was I'm going to take some of this learning, contribute back to the community through the DNN Docs website, and hopefully with some kind of how-to walkthrough videos and things like that for some of the functionality here. For some of the future items on the roadmap here, one specifically I'll call out is where are we here? Module action menus. So I contributed, I think this was probably 6 months ago now, but you can now extend the action menus in DNN. So as a developer, you can swap them out with something else. Shine's going to swap that out with their own menus here in a very near version, but I want to share that back with the community that, hey, here's that setting. The control panel setting, which I found in 2016, I had to sift through so much code to figure out, okay, how is this happening? Because it's not documented. So part of that type of thing we're going to bring back and put into the doc site.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
So I noticed that Mandeep Singh joined us here, and Mandeep, I'm going to put you on the spot for a second because you didn't get to see everything. Do you have some questions for Mike? Something that you'd like to see real quick or anything like that?
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Yeah, I remember I was at your preview.
Yeah, man.
Last time as well, so I was just curious to see, if it's ready to go live. I see you're on a site called scottiacode.com. I see it's not live yet, so my first question is when does this actually go live, so we could play with it.
Yeah, sure. So it's pronounced Scotia code. So that's the name of the company my company that's delivering the product. This is going live tonight. The website here, yeah. So the one thing that's not going live tonight, we do have a instant online demo. So when you click this early next week, it'll take you to the same website, but it'll let you use the product without any funky business. Just go to the website. You can select if you're a content editor or a min or super user type thing, and it'll take you right in. You can get around and play with that. So I'll send some tweets out and LinkedIn messages when that goes live, but that's not going to be any later than early next week. But this website's here. We'll go live tonight with it has all the information for pricing and features and change history and roadmap, things like that.
Awesome. So one more question: did anything new and exciting happen since your preview last time and since to the release, or just kind of polishing up everything?
Polishing up new features here and there. We have the content repository on the left-hand side, which has all the pages and redirects now. So really, it's the same product, just evolving as we go on with new features. And in some cases, I don't have any specific examples to give you for tonight, but in some cases, we've removed features from previous presentations as well. If you really want to bore yourself, you could go back and watch a presentation on this from about 2 years, or from DNN Connect a couple of years ago, and while it's the same product and the same inspiration, some features that we were prototyping, it just quite frankly weren't valuable. So we've removed things over the time as well.
Yeah, no, it's always the case with any good software. You keep iterating and keep making changes until you feel you've got the best mix. So exactly. I'm excited. I was excited last time too. So we'd love to play with that demo whenever you have it too. I think this is going to be a great solutions for those who are still on DNN. Is this compatible with DNN 7?
This is compatible with 7.4 all the way up to the latest.
Awesome. Yeah. So some of those who are on a previous version, but they really need to get a modern UX and all that experience.
Well, frankly, one of my inspirations here is people do need to get upgraded. Not every situation I mentioned earlier, everyone has some funky scenarios, but if you don't like, if you're scared of change, whatever your aversion is to other solutions, you can install this on your 7 site, upgrade, and have the exact same experience over time as well. So having that kind of continuity is a really good bonus, I believe.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes DNN great because of extensibility. So it kind of caters to everyone's need.
For sure.
You don't have to go with the same bandwagon that the DNN officially is heading to. You could always stick to the UX that you're familiar with. So, no, I'm excited. Since I missed the presentation, I'd like to look at that pricing tab if you have any information out there.
So that's a perfect segue because I was going to ask Mike, it was interesting seeing your pricing model as you pull that up there. I mean, what kind of led you, because, I mean, being a vendor in the space, I know Mandeep's a vendor in the space, there's others that have done that. Pricing has always been an interesting area, so I'm always curious as to what leads people to set pricing the way that they do.
Yeah, a variety of different things. Research on other products. Not that we're not talking about just the DNN space. A lot of my research spans content management systems. When we talk about user research, pricing and research, at the end of the day, I'm not just focused on DNN. We're kind of spreading out and looking at what other people are doing as well. The model that we came up with was to answer a lot of complaints that people came to us with, both one-on-one and through online surveys. Things around, as I mentioned earlier, just a simple support license with ample time to get upgrades and support instead of a few months with different flavors. We just want to be as transparent as possible with that. With the prices, certainly looking at other offerings in both spaces. I think it's extremely competitive when you compare the value adds that come with this product. There's some, and I'm not want to pick on any pricing. It's none of my business. But if you look at some modules out there, there's modules out there that might put a banner on a page that are half the price of this, whereas this kind of transforms your entire experience, and I think will save your users or yourselves the cost pretty quickly through operational time savings. Quite frankly, as I mentioned, some of the examples earlier, some of the features we have saved customers hours. And as a consultant, I charge consulting rates when I go into your office. So for a similar rate to what you might charge for a day, you can get a piece of software that's going to really transform your clients or your content editors or your coworkers' experience here. And then, just as we go up to have an incentive, one of my biggest complaints when working as an employee in the enterprise is going through these long processes to then find out how much something costs. We're just trying to be as transparent as possible here. This may not work for your situation, it might, but yeah, that's kind of where that came from.
That's great. Well, Mike, if you were to take 1 minute to final thoughts, kind of wrap it up, if there's one thing that you want people to be left with, when it comes to Shine for DNN, what would you point them to?
Well, I would point them to the scotiacode.com website. As mentioned earlier, that's going to be live tonight with a little more, with more things trickling over the next few days. As I mentioned, we all know how releases go. But the one thing I'd leave you with is, this product is really built for people who use DNN on a day-to-day basis. And as you can read through the questions and things like that, we're open. We want feedback. If something isn't working, we don't do like for like with DNN. Everyone's situation is different, as I mentioned many times. So if your website is using a specific setting in, say, the page settings screen that we don't have, come let us know. If you're using something that just doesn't work, let us know. In all situations, we're not necessarily going to change something because we got to think of kind of the overall user base. But we do also offer custom quotes and customizations as well. So you can read down through the notes on that one. And if there's something you really like here, but you just really need feature X because your client or your website, etc., needs that, it doesn't mean we're necessarily going to take it to heart and do it, but absolutely reach out. And we really want to evolve this product to meet the needs of kind of the 95%. There's always going to be funky scenarios, but there's a lot of people, as I mentioned earlier, regardless of website platform, that do these common scenarios, these common tasks, and that's kind of where we're targeting to go after. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you again so much for taking the time to join us. I know you've been with us several times on this. It's really nice to see this finally coming to fruition, and wish the absolute most success to you in this, and keep us posted on how things are going. Looking forward to getting our hands on this and taking it for a spin. So thank you so much, Mike.
Awesome.
Well,
thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, we're going to wrap things up here, but I wanted to draw a couple of things to reminder here that next month we will not be having a Southern Fried DNN online meeting. It's where every year we'll get together and have a holiday meal together, just the ones that are local or anybody that's out of town that wants to come and join us. If you'd like to do that, please let us know, and we'll make sure that you know where we're going to rendezvous and enjoy a nice meal together and just enjoy each other's company without any particular agenda. So it'll be really great. And we'll start resuming back to Southern Fried DNN meetings on January the 16th. So please be sure to pay attention for that. I don't think we have speaker lined up for that quite yet. So if you are interested in speaking or presenting, or for a short segment or even a long one, let us know, and we'll be sure to try to get you in the docket here and all that. Lastly, if you have not yet registered for DNN Summit and you would like to go or at least explore, please check out dnnsummit.org and check out that. You've got just a few days left here till the end of the month of November to get the early bird special, and you'll be able to save $150 US dollars on that. So be sure to do that. We'd love to see you all there. We'll go ahead and end the recording part of this session, and I hope everybody has a great week.